Welcome to Like a Doss, the podcast where Ronnie Doss will share with you insights around life, legacy, and leadership. For more information about our resources, visit our website at dossteam.com. Now let's join the podcast.
Well, hello guys, it's Ronnie Doss. We are back for episode 7 of Like a Doss. I am so excited. Joel is here. It's late at night. It's the end of the day, and he came by so we could record this podcast and get it out to you. So I am excited and I'm grateful. Joel, thanks for being here, bud. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Ronnie. And it is, I was thinking about that as I was coming in, that it's going to be a different dynamic because normally we're morning guys when we do this or early afternoon maybe. So I wonder how our feelings are and the things we process and the questions we ask, if it'll be different after going through a full day of activities.
Yeah, it probably will be, but hey, maybe we'll have to move them to the nights if this one is awesome, which I know it will be. So anyway, man, you had a good day?
Things have been fantastic, but I got to tell you, I saw something in you when I walked in. Something, you got something on your mind, on your chest. Come on, let's get it off. I can see you got something.
Wow, you know me pretty well. So, yeah, man, I think I'm just on this thing today. You know, I've done a lot of coaching sessions today, just dealing with some great opportunities to solve some challenges and some problems that, or let's just call them challenges or opportunities, right? You got to have the right verbiage for it. But, you know, problems are just opportunities for us to kind of dig in, get better, and see how we can improve. And so what I've been thinking about late in the day today was just we can never, ever quit. You know, when you decide that you're going to do something and that you're going to give your best to it, regardless of the circumstances, you really do yourself a favor. And when you just decide that, you know what, no matter how tough this might get, no matter how hard it may seem, no matter what the challenges are, how the adversity is coming, the resistance is there, when you just decide I'm not going to quit, I'm going to do this thing until I become my very best, then you become powerful. You know, a lot of times people talk about that, Joel. They say, you know, we should never, ever quit. And it's this cliche catchphrase, and everybody's got something to say about never quitting. But I think that really digging into the depth of your soul and saying, you know, I feel the heat on every side. I feel the challenges. I feel the pain, but I'm not going to stop. When you do that, I think that you really step it up to another level of awareness. I think you step it up to another level of possibility in your life, and you give yourself permission to grow into the person that you believe on some level that you can become. You don't have to have the faith for the whole journey at first. In the beginning, all you got to have is the faith to just take the first step. And if you'll take the first step in the right direction toward the thing that really does matter to you in your life, you can see the beauty of what God has created, which is you, this amazing being. You can see you come to life. And then one day you get to look in the mirror and you start to be really, really proud of who it is that you have become. And that doesn't happen overnight. You've got to decide daily that you're going to give your best to it. And there are going to be days where it's easier. There's going to be days when you wake up and you're like, oh, I got this thing. This is no problem. And then there's going to be days where it seems like as soon as you put your feet on the ground, as soon as you get started, before you even get your first cup of coffee in you, it's like there's something pushing against you saying, I don't know if you got what it takes today. But you know, when you just decide that no matter what, I don't care how I feel, it doesn't matter what it looks like it's going on around me. I'm going to do the very thing that I know I need to do right now in this moment to get me moving forward. If you can focus on that one thing and bring that one thing to life and get clear on what that one thing is at the beginning of the day, I'm telling you, you can set the pace to create an awesome day. And I had a great day today, but it had its challenges. There were some things that came today that were a little tougher than I thought they would be. But we came out on top and we made it through. And I think that at any given day, especially the end of the day right now, we can look back on the day and ask ourselves, hey, what did I learn from today? Is there anything that was valuable that I could take away that's going to make my tomorrow better? So that I don't have to be the best at anything, but I'm becoming my best at something. And whatever that something is, I hope and I pray that for you in your life, that it is something that drives you, that is passionately burning in you to make a difference on this planet. Because without it, when you wake up and you're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I should do. What can I do? That confusion and that lack of clarity can cause you to burn so much energy on things that don't really matter, that are not going to make a big difference. And I just think that somebody needs to hear that it's going to feel like hell when you're walking through it. But on the other side, you're better. You're stronger. Your capacity's better. You're more grounded. You have more depth to you. You have more wisdom. You've got more knowledge, and you've got more strength. You've lifted some of the weights. You've pushed back against some of the resistance that comes from you being great. And the resistance is going to be there. And if you haven't felt it, if you haven't fallen on your face yet, you will. But if you haven't, I would say that you probably haven't been stretching yourself enough, because you got to be okay with falling on your face, feeling the knot in your throat, like there's just never going to be another day, that it's over. You got to be willing to come to that place and go, oh, that's all that is. That's just a feeling. That feeling doesn't have to mean anything. I mean, yeah, it doesn't feel good in this moment, but how can I use it? How can I pull that together, harness it, and bring it into this one thought or one idea that gives me the courage and the passion and the tenacity and the boldness to step through into that next level that very few people are willing to step into? And when you look across the planet, yes, people are getting up in the mornings and they're going to their jobs. But when you get up and you just decide that no matter what happens to me today, no matter how tough it looks, I'm going to give my very best to this, and not only just get through it, I mean really get something out of it. I'm going through the day, but I'm getting something from the day to make me better so I can pass something on to my kids, to my grandkids. And so I leave this planet better because I didn't let the feelings of, oh my God, maybe I should quit. I wonder what they're going to think. You got to be more committed to making a difference than you are committed to letting your feelings and the attachment to other people's stupid opinions drive you. You can't worry what other people are thinking. The only thing you need to do, as I say it a lot, there's two opinions that matter. God's opinion of you and your opinion of you. And you can only control that and worry about that. But if you get that right and just decide that no matter how tough it is, I'm doing it anyway because this is about me becoming my best, man, you've got this thing, you've got life pretty much handled, because it's not going to give you anything that you can't handle if you decide, I've got this. And that's just where I've been all day today, man. And tonight, you got me at the end of the day. I tend to come alive about 7 p.m. anyway, for those of you that don't know. But anyway, that was just what you saw, man. That's just where I'm at. You know me well. So that's it.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this episode.
You're crazy, man.
Oh, that was fantastic. Seriously, we could wrap with that, and people got a full meal deal right there. But we're gonna go, man. That was some good stuff, and I know that helped a lot of people. It helped me. We're gonna step forward here. I've got some D's tonight that we're working on. D words and you kind of tapped into it in that first little jump that you did, and I want to go back to it. The first one is drive. How can I get that drive that you were speaking of if I don't feel it right now? I want to get a drive. I want to find the desires that are made for me, my plan, my path in life. How do I find that drive and move forward?
Well, I think you first have to take some swings at it. If you sit around waiting on the epiphany to come, to give you the drive to move forward, you're going to waste a lot of your life. And the problem is we sit around seeing ourselves sit around. Our unconscious starts to think, well, this must be who I am. I'm a person that sits around and waits. But then if you just decide that, well, I got to find some drive. I got to do something. I got to get myself into a state of mind to where I'm doing something. I get my blood pumping, my heart racing. I've got chemicals firing off in my brain. You got to get yourself into a place to where your physiology is good and things are happening on the inside. When you do that, then you got to take some swings at a few things and try a few things. I mean, it's not like most people, I would say, don't really know what they want to do with their life. I mean, that they're really committed to. I mean, a lot of people want to be, an astronaut or a professional athlete or they want to be Joel Bennett, which, big deal, right? But no, seriously, I mean, most people aren't born with this thing that I know what I'm going to be. This goes back to what I was just saying. You got to give some things a try and just decide that maybe I don't have it figured out yet, but I'm surely not going to quit. And so finding the drive means that you're just going to be willing to take some swings at some stuff. And you try it, you do it. Here's the key. You give your best to it. And then if it doesn't work, you know that you gave your best to it. That's very different, Joel, than saying, oh, I'll try this for a few months. And then, well, I tried being an accountant and going to school for that, but then I decided I didn't want to do that. I wanted to become an astronaut. So I tried that for 6 weeks, and it didn't work. And now I want to be a doctor, but I'm not. You can't do that. You've got to give things enough time to see what it's going to draw out of you. And when we put ourselves in tough situations, it draws out this awesome ability oftentimes that we don't know that we have. But if we don't put ourselves in that situation, then we're never going to see what we're capable of. And those situations that draw the best out of us, Joel, are the situations often that make us the most uncomfortable. And so if you're totally afraid of being uncomfortable, and your commitment is to staying comfortable and making it look like you got it figured out, then guess what? You're never going to find out what you're really made of. All you're going to do is create a facade, this image that's like a stack or a house of cards, we call it, to where you thump the bottom thing and it falls out from under it. You know, some people are like, oh, so-and-so is a great speaker, and they're great in the front of the room, and they're just a good speaker. And I think, wow, that's great. Hope they're a great speaker. We need great communicators. But you can tell if someone messes with somebody a little bit, and then you see what happens to them. You're not a great speaker unless you can handle the elephant in the room. You're not great at anything unless you can handle a little bit of a distraction that may be a little bit off of your perfect case scenario or perfect plan. Life doesn't work perfectly. Life just works. You got to make it as perfect as you can by practicing and working as hard at it as you can. And the way that we find this drive is by being willing to get out there and do something. These people that are the most judgmental, the people that have the most to say about people, are typically the people that don't do squat with their life. They just sit back. They have nothing to bring to the world other than an opinion. And everybody's got one. And if you're concerned with what everybody else thinks and you're just going to sit around until you can find the perfect thing before you actually take some action, I'm telling you, you're going to waste a lot of your life. And then you'll start to see that you're a person that seems to waste a lot of time. And then you have to fight against that belief system that, well, obviously for the past 5 years, I've sat around and not done anything. So I guess that's who I am. Let's sit around for another 5 years and prove myself right, that I'm a person that doesn't do anything. And so you find the drive by taking some action, man. You got to crank the car, got to put it in drive and see where it will go. If you don't, you'll never know. You'll never know where you could get to. You'll never know what a great driver you could be. And you'll miss a whole lot of some awesome journey that you could see on the road to getting to where it is that you ultimately need to be. You're going to make mistakes, but that's okay. You learn from it and you keep moving. I'm done.
Man, that was so good. You hit it the nail on the head right there. And I don't know if you're peeking at my notes or what, but you're just daisy chaining me to the next topic over and over. You mentioned distractions. That's my next D word. And you've recently put out some stuff about distractions. I want you to hit distractions. I've got this drive now. What do I do to keep from getting distracted? We have so many things in the world can draw our attention off of our focus, whether it's Facebook, our friends, the ball game, whatever the distraction is, even failure. There's so many distractions. How can I avoid those or plow through them?
Well, I think the first thing, you gave a nice little list of things there. I think the first thing you have to do is at least identify what some of your distractions are. I mean, if you don't know that it's a distraction, you'll give permission to it. And what you give permission to will continually show up in your life. And so we've got to be clear that those things, you said what, social media, television, the ball game, failure even, can become like the distraction. If you spend a whole lot of time thinking about the failure and what you didn't do right, then that in and of itself becomes a distraction. But if you keep the right perspective on what you'd call a failure, then it really wasn't a failure. It was just a lesson, right? And so now that's not necessarily a distraction anymore. That's an opportunity to just get a little better, because you've got some wisdom you didn't have before, because you kind of went through that challenge of what you at first called a failure. So you got to have the right perspective on these things. And I think one of the things you got to do is, once you identify what those distractions are, is that you start to eliminate them a little bit at a time, at least. I mean, I'd say cold turkey some things and just say, you know what, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., if that's what you need to frame it as, I don't do social media. Now, if you're the kind of person that needs social media, it helps you to develop business or drive what it is that you're doing in marketing in some way, yeah, spend some time posting things that are going to keep you in people's face, but you don't need to be on there scrolling through to see what people are eating and where they're going and their slideshow of how awesome their life is, which is not, by the way. I've coached people whose life on Facebook looks amazing, and let me tell you, it's not. It's just not. So what do? Well, you go, okay, let me utilize this in the best way to keep me moving forward. But you at least need to identify how it is a distraction and say it. Hey, that's a distraction. And then you say, I don't give room to distraction. If I identify something as a distraction, I move it out of the way. It moves out of my space. And I have a space that I get into, whether it's in my office or wherever it is that I might need to be, that I can create this non-negotiable space for me. I used to call it the 2020 vision plan. And that was at the beginning of the day, I'd spend 20 minutes getting clear, clearing my head. I have some coffee. I then relax. I read something good. And then I take a few minutes to really get myself clear, away from all the things that are trying to pull at my attention. Get myself clear, get myself focused on where I'm going, and then I get started. Sometimes it's that first step. And distractions will cause you from taking that first step. And you can spend a lot of your energy on stuff that can make you pretend that you're busy. But let me tell you a little exercise to do here, Joel. If you want to do it, you guys listening, you want to do it, why don't you script out your day? Let's just take yesterday, for example. Why don't you script out your day and write out just exactly what you did on an hour-to-hour basis? And then in that hour to hour, drop it down to the half hours. And then try to narrow it down to the minutes. And then you'll see how many gaps there are in your day of time that you probably wasted. And I'm not saying it's all wasted, because sometimes you have to do things that show up. You have a kid that gets sick. You got to take a kid somewhere. Somebody calls. It's an emergency. Those things happen. But if you look at your day, you would see that probably, I'm just making a guess, I'm not pointing a finger, that you probably waste a majority of the time in your day. Many people do, and they're like, I'm just so busy, there's not enough time in the day. It's not true. There is enough time in the day. What there's too much of in the day are things that you don't need to be doing. And if you'll remove those things out of your day, you'll see that you have then time margin. And with that time, you can then really get focused on what it is you want to get better at and what it is you want to do to construct the future that you talk about, saying that you want. It's not enough to just want it. Getting committed to it means that you're committed to it. You're committed to investing the time into it. You're committed to investing the discipline, so to speak. And when you do that, then you get better. But if not, you're like a majority of the people in our culture and society who are just too busy to do those things. And it's just a story. It's crap. And if you allow yourself to be distracted, you're going to produce distracted results. But the more you get focused on a few things that can make all the difference in your life, I'm telling you, you'll move forward quicker than the pack. And that's just what I've seen. People that are really making it happen, they value and guard their time like it's the most valuable thing in the world. And ultimately, it is. And so distractions are something you just can't allow in.
God, good stuff, Ron. Good stuff. I'm going to tie two of them together here. We mentioned it a little bit here, but defeats and then delays. And they're two totally separate things, but sometimes they're together. And sometimes you think a delay is a defeat or a defeat is a delay. Can you hit both of those?
Delay is simply part of the process. There's always the saying that the sweetest fruit hangs on the vine the longest, so to speak. And you got to realize that to be decent at anything and that means life in general, you got to put in the time. And putting in the time means putting in the time not just when it's easy, but putting in the time when you don't want to put in the time. And the times that we don't want to invest the time, Joel, are the times that we've decided that we shouldn't have to be investing the time right now, that we should be further down the path to success. If I tell myself that I should be further down the road than I am, and that this delay is a bad thing, it puts me in a headspace to where I'm not grateful for this moment that I've been given, that I can then pour some great stuff into that moment to make me better. And if it's really about me becoming my best, then every moment that I have is simply a choice to become my best. Delay is a head game. Delay is an ego trip. When you're worried about the delay and it causes you to think, well, I'm just not there, whatever, then you're not supposed to be there yet. If you were supposed to be there, you would be there. You are right here where you are as a reflection of some of the choices that you've made, some of the circumstances that you've had to deal with. But at the end of the day, you are right here. So worrying about delay, saying it's taking too long, you're burning valuable mental energy that you could be using to create the best you. And all you're doing is feeding your ego, going, well, I should be further along, getting somebody to feel sorry for you, maybe even yourself, so that you can get off of the focus that you need to have on what matters. And what matters is this moment, right now. If you master that, when you take that and you pour the best into that, tomorrow's moments get easier. It's the old saying, if you do what's hard, life gets easier. If you do what's easy, life gets harder. And that's true in a lot of different cases. Obviously, lots of different cases, and I could go into those, but I'm not. But delay is part of it. Patience is a virtue. It is. Patience is a weapon that causes deception to reveal itself. So what does that mean? Well, if you can be patient, the deception that maybe this is what you wanted to do, or this is the person for you, or this is the relationship that's the end all, if you feel like there's some delay there, all that is an opportunity for you to do some real introspection and to look at yourself and say, is there some area that I need to grow so that I can move myself down the road to creating the success that I say that I want? Delay is not a denial. It is not. We've heard that so many times, but delay means that you have been given a little more time to get better and to refine yourself. And if you're the kind of person that thinks you can't get better, that you can't learn any more and that you can't grow any more, it's the old saying, go ahead and unpack your bags there because you're going to be there for a while. And I don't know about you, but I want to get better. If God's given me one more day to live, I'm going to use it to get better. If he's given me 24 hours, I'm going to use it to get better. And that goes back to the first thing we talked about today, Joel, is just making the commitment. That it might have sucked yesterday. Things might have been hard yesterday. But you know what? I'm going to give it my best today. And when you do that, that's what we call renewing your mind. And even in the delay, you're getting stronger. Even when nobody's looking, you're getting better. And then when the opportunity comes and that door opens, you're ready. Because what do we say? There's nothing worse than not getting an opportunity than there is getting an opportunity and not being prepared for it. And so a lot of times in the delay, when nobody's looking, when things have plateaued, that's where you refine your craft. That's where you get better and better and better. And for people, if somebody's listening to this going, well, I've been delayed and I'm wanting a relationship. You get better at being alone. You get better at loving yourself and honoring yourself and being okay with yourself. That prepares you better for being in a relationship with someone else because nobody else is going to complete you, so to speak. Yes, we need a spouse. Yes, we need a helpmate. We need that. However, you've got to be okay with you. That way, if they don't act right, which there's going to be times when they don't, because there's times that you're not going to act right. If they don't act right, you don't lose your mind because you don't know who you are. When you know who you are, that makes you valuable in a relationship. And a lot of times it's the delay that will actually refine that. So there's that. There's the delay. You want me to jump right into this defeat thing?
Go into defeat.
Defeat. Defeat means that you've been beaten before, that you've lost. It's crazy to think back. I can remember playing sports as a kid. I can remember playing baseball. I remember I was a shortstop. I could field the ball. I could hit the ball well. I was always the leadoff hitter, and I was a shortstop. Well, I got to pitch some. when this was Little League Baseball, and we were going to play the All-Star game. And we went to a bigger city, and we went from my town where I grew up, which was Mount Airy, North Carolina. We went to Winston-Salem, and we played these guys that to me were giants, these bigger guys. And I got to pitch like the first couple of innings of the game. And Joel, they were knocking it out of the park on me. It seems like I was just throwing it up there like a baby, like a sissy, going, here, hit it, knock it out of the park. Those guys were killing it. They were killing it. I mean, they'd hit the ball further than I had seen before. And I walked off the field and I was crying. You know, you're Little League, right? I was crying, beat down. And, you know, it's like I remember throwing my glove down, acting like, hey, I can't believe this. And I just remember one of my coaches saying, hey, you're better than that. It's all right. And, you know, I've always remembered that because in that emotion of that defeat, you're open, man. The times when you got your tail kicked and you got your butt handed to you, you're open to learn. That's a great time to learn because you've got that emotional involvement. I always tell people there's two ways to learn: repetition and emotional involvement. When you go through something emotional, you're open to learn because it'll anchor in deeper than if you're just thinking on a head level and it doesn't really matter. And I remember like throwing my glove down and my coach saying, hey, you're better than that. And I've just always remembered that, you know what, even in the defeat, you got to remember that you're better than that. You can't hang your head down. You can't say, I'm going to quit. You've got to know that there are people that are watching and know it doesn't matter what other people's opinions are of you, but you've got to like yourself. And sometimes going through the defeats and just deciding to lift your head up one more time, when you just don't know if you can do it, when you do that, you learn to respect yourself and like yourself better. And right now, if you're listening to this and you're going, man, I've been through some defeats. Well, you're here listening today because you're committed to making your life better. You're not taking the defeats that went on for you in your life and you turning around and jumping into a bottle and becoming an alcoholic, taking on a drug addiction, doing something stupid because you know that you're better than that. And that honestly, I think you know on a deep level that the world needs you. And nobody that is great has ever became great without losing something, without getting beat down. I mean, it's what makes us great. I mean, you got to be able to throw some punches, but you got to be able to take punches too. And anytime we look at someone that has risen to the top of their game, they've gone through some challenges. You know, I was watching this thing on Neil Armstrong the other night. You know, obviously NASA stuff. I'm so into it. Neil Armstrong, first man to ever land on the moon, Apollo 11. This guy, they said, had nerves of steel, but he could think quickly. But I was looking at the things that he had gone through in his life, and he lost his daughter. Her name was Karen. And she was, I don't even think she was 3 years old yet. And his friends said they could see that this was the only time that Neil had really ever expressed a hurt or a wound. But they said, you know, he used it. He used that pain to tighten his focus up and to get even better at what it is that mattered to him. And that was being this amazing pilot that now obviously has changed the world with the phrase, you know, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. This is a guy that went through challenges. These other guys have gone through challenges. Nobody becomes great without dealing with some defeat. You can't let it define you. Defeat can't define you, and it surely can't stop you. You've got to be careful of what you make a defeat mean, the story that you tell yourself, what you say to yourself. And if you just decide you're going to come out on the other side and that this too shall pass, even when I feel defeated, this too shall pass, it's going to get better. If you can do that, man, I'm telling you, at the end of your life, you look up and go, man, I lived a good life. I produced some good things. I made some good things happen, and I grew better. I became better. And honestly, I think that's what this leadership idea and concept and legacy is all about, is leaving the planet better than we found it, being a better person than we were when we started. And, you know, I think that's it, man.
That was fantastic. You exceeded the daytime version, I believe. It was great. You were tuned in, and it was awesome. I think we covered those D's. I'll make some more D's for the next trip, but that was fantastic. Ronnie, leave him with one more nugget.
Well, I mean, you're on the D's. I mean, you've heard me say it. You know, everybody needs a D day, and that's the day where maybe they've just become so disgusted that they make that decision. And maybe today's that's it. Maybe you've just decided, hey, I'm going to make this decision today. Not that things are really terrible, that you're at the bottom of the barrel, but maybe just today you go, hey, I heard this for a reason. I listened to it for a reason. I was compelled to do this, and today I'm making a decision. Today I'm going to decide that this thing that I've been working at, just today I'm making the decision I'll never, ever quit. That no matter how tough it is, and I know there's people that say, oh, if you don't feel like it's working, you should quit and go do something else. Well, yes, but I think to really see what you can become, you got to be willing to dig in. And so if today's that day and you make the decision, the word decision comes from dekaidir, which means to cut away all the other options. When you make that decision that you are going to make it happen, that no matter what the challenges are, the circumstances, man, that's when you become powerful. And so I think I want to leave you guys tonight with the acknowledgement of you listening to this and investing 30 minutes of your life into your mind and into your future, knowing that you're worth it. Because you are worth it. It doesn't matter how many times you may have failed or taken some defeat or how long the delays are. You're so valuable to the world. And you were led to this for a reason. I don't believe there's coincidences. I don't. And that's another conversation maybe we'll have on a podcast. But I believe you're here for a reason. And you know that your future matters and you know that you matter. So make the decision today to do anything that you can to continue to get better because you're awesome. I so appreciate you. And on that note, if you know somebody that you think needed to hear this or would like to hear this, please share it. I texted Joel today, and I was looking at the numbers from our podcast downloads, and I said, Joel, can you believe this is how many downloads we're getting? Guys, the downloads on this are phenomenal. People are sharing it. So if you have somebody that you care about or that you think would benefit from hearing this, please share it with them. This podcast we're enjoying it. We really are. I love sharing this stuff with you, but there's somebody out there that probably needs to hear this. So if you would, share that, share this, and subscribe to it, whatever you need to do. But I appreciate you being the leader that you are, taking the time to invest in you because the world needs us. It needs all of us to step up. And so with that being said, Joel, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. I know it's the end of the day. I enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to talking to you guys again very, very soon. Take care.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. The Like a Doss podcast is released every first and third Friday of the month. For more information, visit our website at dostteam.com.